Hello everybody, welcome to the webinar today. Thank you so much for giving up your lunch hour today. My name is Nikki Berryman, for those of you who don't know me, and I work as the corporate implementation manager at Agilio iComply, and my role is to onboard and train groups and DSOs to the iComply and iLearn platforms. So today we're going to discuss how Agilio iComply can help support your business to manage compliance across multiple sites. We're going to look at the challenges of managing compliance across multiple sites, and we're going to have a bit of a whistle-stop tour of the iComply group dashboard and functionality as well. And then we're going to have a look at how iComply can benefit your organization, and then we'll talk about some top tips for managing your compliance at multi-site level. Okay. So over the last 12 months, we have had an outstanding number, really, of groups and DSOs reach out to us as iComply requesting help and support to manage their compliance over multiple sites. And this has enabled us to gain a really massive insight into the challenges facing multi-site owners at the moment and the compliance leads. And we're hearing lots of challenges, lots of feedback, lots of frustrations. One of the most difficult things is the challenges in identifying at-risk practices. So there is a challenge around understanding which practices are at risk, and it's really time-consuming to clearly identify those practices that are falling short with their compliance. For example, do you know how well your policies have been edited or your risk assessments have been completed in each of your practices? And say if you own 25 practices or so, how do you know how many of those have completed health and risk assessments, say, in the last 12 months? So it's really difficult if you're working remotely and you haven't got a really good compliance platform to be able to identify those practices that are at risk. Equally, it's really difficult to identify practices who have inconsistent policies and procedures. So we're hearing of different practices in the same group that are using different policies, documents and checklists. It makes it really difficult to audit and compare and contrast then, and you can't easily see where inconsistencies lie across the group. And in addition, compliance at group level can be really paper heavy, and we often hear of compliance managers juggling multiple spreadsheets and trackers, but the iComply group document functionality will allow you to streamline all of your policies and procedures to ensure that all of your practices are using the same documents. We also hear actually that compliance managers are really time poor, so they're spending lots of time traveling between sites, and very often spending up to 2 or 3 days in a practice at one time, and much of that time is used reviewing documents. Ideally, as a compliance lead, if you're spending time in practice, then that time should be spent observing decon procedures or carrying out training or engaging with team members. It's really wasted on simply reviewing documents and survey checklists. And of course, as your organization grows, that is only ever going to become increasingly resource heavy. We also hear of little or poor reporting. That means business owners or compliance leads are essentially flying blind, or again, relying on multiple spreadsheets or tracking documents. There's no clear reporting to assess the compliance of your entire estate at any moment in time. And so that leads us to a group who actually could become very reactive. So certainly in relation to CQC inspections. So even with the tightest head office systems in place, if a group is paper-based or they haven't got a compliance platform, then it's really time consuming and resource heavy. And it means there's often a panic when there's a CQC visit that's been announced. Using the group dashboard, though, will enable you to view and control workflows, which means that practices are keeping up to date with their compliance activities and that you have a really consistent high level of compliance in all of your sites. There shouldn't be a mad dash to get inspection ready, because actually, if you use a good compliance platform, you'll always be inspection ready. It just gives you that extra layer of control. In essence, I think that we're hearing that managing compliance across multi-sites can really quickly become extremely resource heavy, very costly, inconsistent, fraught with risk, and really stressful. So how does HighComply group functionality help to support all those challenges? So Agilio as a group, we're really lucky to have a very experienced compliance and professional services team. They have a really strong ex-practice manager presence, and additionally lots of us have had group or multi-site experience, which means that we really generally understand the challenges faced by owners and compliance leads. And also we're lucky enough to work with a first-class product development team. So that means we can bring you the iComply group functionality. And I have to say, if you haven't seen it before, or you haven't had the pleasure of having a demo before, it's an absolute game changer if you are managing multi-site compliance. It really is missing jigsaw in your compliance management, and it will really help you to support the operational management of compliance across your group. So this is the group dashboard. We're going to have an overview of every aspect of the group dashboard in a second. But basically, this, when you log into iComply at group level, this is the group dashboard. This is what you will see straight away. It's simple, it's effective. It gives you a huge amount of information in just one page. And it's been designed specifically that way, so that even if you have 2 practices in your group, or you have 250 practices in your group, you can access the same amount of information literally with a touch of a button really, really quickly. Yeah, like I said, we'll review all of these sections in a bit more detail in a moment, but the activities is where you can view all of the compliance activities across all of your practices in any desired time frame. The number of active users tells you how many people are actively using the platform. And the group documents tells you the percentage of group documents that you've adopted across your entire estate. And the compliance activities completed tells you how many compliance activities that your practices have completed in relation to the key lines of inquiries. Essentially, how compliant your group currently is at any point in time. So how does it work? Well, when we onboard groups onto the iComply group dashboard, owners and compliance leads will be given an admin access. And that allows them to review the compliance status of the entire organisation literally at the click of a button, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year from any location. It makes you really agile and responsive as an organisation. You can assess whether practices are moving backwards or forwards with their compliance really easily just by looking at the dashboard. We can also create and help you to report on subgroups as well, which means that you can report on different regions or locations in your group, or by area manager name, for example. And again, it just provides that extra layer of control and focus. The group documents as well are superb. So we provide a really comprehensive and robust suite of template policies and procedures for your group. The group document functionality, though, means that these templates can be reviewed and edited at group level to fit the needs of your business. So your personalised set of group documents then are published at each practice, so your managers can adopt them to ensure that they are obviously practice specific. And there's also the ability to create your own documents and folders in iComply, so you can really personalise the platform to suit you. Group tasks, there's the option to create group or business specific tasks for your practices across your entire estate. For example, if you are a group that specialises in cosmetic or implant dentistry, you might want to create and schedule tasks to ensure that implant audits are completed or CT scanners are serviced annually. Or if you're a sedation-led practice, you might want to make sure that practices have booked in their ILS training annually, that kind of thing. Creating the group-specific tasks allows you that extra layer of personalization and control. And we'll look at those in a little bit more detail as we work through. Group dashboard as well, and this is a big thing for me. This is the real time saver. Okay, so the group dashboard enables you to deep dive into all of your practices from one place, so that you can monitor and review your compliance activities and identify practices that may require additional support. This is especially relevant for a new manager, so a new manager to your group, or a new manager to dentistry, or even for a new practice acquisition where you really want to keep a close eye of what's going on in practice. Again, it just provides transparency around documentation that you need to review without requiring a site visit, so that you can review risk assessments or service reports from any practice at any time should you need to do that. And the reports as well are superb. So you can generate reports from the group dashboard that allow you to not only understand the current level of compliance, but also to identify risk, levels of practice engagement, and identify trends. So again, this enables you to be proactive in providing additional support or training at practice level if needed. So now we're going to have a bit of a whistle-stop tour of each section of the dashboard in a little bit more detail. So this is the activities report. So the first dial on the left-hand side there is a RAG-rated pie chart, and that shows the amount of completed, in progress and outstanding activities that there are across the group. You can see my little demo group is doing really well at the moment. We're 88% complete on all our activities. If you were to click view more, you would expand this report, and you would see then on the bottom half of the page, it will list all of the practices in the group. Again, doesn't matter if you've got 2 or 200, you can instantly see all the practices there that have got the live compliance cycles, and you can see the percentage of complete, in progress or overdue activities in each practice. You can also click again on each practice to deep dive into that particular practice straight from this section as well. So again, it's really agile and really responsive to needs. You can also view this report by a single activity. So for example, in here, if you wanted to find out how many of your practices had completed a fire risk assessment in the last 12 months, you could literally do that probably in about 10 seconds. It's that quick. So it gives you a huge amount of information at your fingertips. The active users report, this is a really simple report, does what it says on the tin really, but it helps you to understand the engagement of your managers and team members across the group. So for example, if I had 10 practices in my group and I looked at this report and it said that I only had say 15 or 20 active users, I'd be pretty worried about the levels of engagement in my group. We encourage managers to add all team members onto iComply because, as you all know, compliance isn't the responsibility of one person in your practice, it's the responsibility of the whole team. So this report gives you a really quick snapshot in time and allows you to see how many members are using iComply. Group documents adopted. So the group documents adopted report will tell you the total percentage of group documents that have been adopted by all of the practices in your group. The calendar date selector here enables you to view documents adopted in a particular time frame, and it tells this tells you how proactive each practice is in adopting the documents. So again, really simple and straightforward report, but very powerful in the type of information that it can give to you. Compliance activities completed. So this has to be my absolute favorite report. I love it, again, just because it's so powerful and it gives you a lot of information quite quickly. This will tell you how compliant your estate currently is based on the percentages of completed activities in relation to the key line of inquiry activities. Okay, it's a live report, so you can see change and improvement day on day. The bottom of the report will tell you how compliant each practice is against each key line of inquiry as well. And so again, it immediately tells you where your risk is. It's just so powerful. You can log in, come into this section straight away and see where your risk, or not, as it may be, is. Again, when practices are falling behind in each category, which practices may need further support, you can see that instantly, and then make sure that your resource and training needs are really focused on those practices that really need it. The other great thing about the reports is that they can all be downloaded as CSV docs, so you can use them to report at board level as well. So yeah, really, really simple. The group reporting function is absolutely superb. We're going to have a quick look at group documents. Obviously, if you joined iComply with group functionality, you'll have access to our standard document set, which any iComply user will tell you is really comprehensive, really robust. But in addition to that, we coach and mentor a senior member of your group, usually the head of compliance, in document adoption. This means that you can edit or adopt any of our templates to incorporate business-specific procedures or processes. And those group documents are then published out to practices for them to adopt and edit at a practice level. Going forward, we alert the group leads to any changes in guidance or legislation so that the group documents can then be amended accordingly. And the other super benefit of the group documents on the group functionality is that you are able to create your own folders and actually create your own group documents as well, so that managers have ease of access to internal documents should you wish, and again provides that extra flexibility and control over your compliance platform. The group tasks, we spoke about this a little bit earlier, but the group tasks are an easy way to create group or business specific tasks that you would like actioned at practice level. Again, you can add documents or checklists to the tasks if you want to, and these can be iComply documents or they can be any of your own. And then you can also vary the repetition and who the task is assigned to. So this is a really great tool that allows you to create a compliance platform that's very specific to your needs, really. Again, it allows that another layer of flexibility and allows you to customize what activities each of your practices are completing. The compliance report. Again, this is a tool that I absolutely love, and whilst the practice compliance reports are not specific to the group functionality, they provide another support tool for you as a head of compliance. So each practice has their own compliance report. iComply pulls together all of the compliance activities within the system and maps them out against each key line of inquiry or compliance system. It's a great tool to use if you are preparing for an inspection or even during an inspection. So when I was managing practices a few years ago, I had a really large practice in Surrey, and I used this report with the CQC inspector as we were carrying out the inspection. It provides a huge level of detail. But again, for a head of compliance, you can dial into each practice dashboard and you can access this report really, really simply. So again, it just provides you with that transparency and control and the information that you need. More importantly, at the click of a button, really, you don't have to get in the car and drive 2 hours to get to a practice to get this information. You can just pull it off iComply in about 5 minutes. So summary of benefits of iComply and the group dashboard. Again, it's worth noting that all the reports can be downloaded and you can use them to report at group level. And it means that you can easily spot trends, identify if improvements have been made, or closely monitor those practices that are slipping back. And it will tell you which practices require the most attention and where to focus your attention, and that will make you really time efficient and much more agile. Again, being able to run reports in key areas, you'll be able to identify common themes, and this enables you to really focus your training and make effective and focused use of your support resource and your training budget. Okay, ensures that you're inspection ready, and again that you are being proactive and organised in your compliance and not reactive and panic stations when it comes to CQC inspections. And the other good thing I think about the group dashboard is it is great for identifying risk. It is great to make sure that you're obviously staying on track and in line with your compliance activities. But another good thing that I think we tend to forget about is it helps us to identify practices that are outstanding. And that's really important, because if we've got a few practices in our group that are managing their compliance really well, then we can start to think, okay, well, how do we replicate that then? What's happening in that practice? How's that PM working? How can we replicate that across other practices in our group? And it may, you may wish to start thinking about introducing compliance champs then across your estate. Benefits of the group dashboard and reporting. So we're lucky enough to work with some really fantastic dental groups. And this is some of the feedback that we've received since they've been using the group dashboard functionality. The key feedback that we hear all the time is about peace of mind, responsiveness, reducing workload and stress. It really has been a game changer for some of our groups. So if you haven't had a demo as yet, or you'd like to speak to anybody in iComply in a bit more detail about your group specifically, because every group is different at the end of the day, then please reach out and contact us, and somebody will happily talk to you about iComply in a bit more detail. I want to talk to you now about some tips that I think will help you to manage and monitor your multi-site compliance. Obviously, my first tip would be for you to contact myself and get going with the dashboard functionality. But beyond that, I think we're all in agreement that compliance can be really quite dry. Shouldn't say that, but it's true. Some managers have a love-hate relationship with compliance, and getting engagement across a group can actually be really hard. However, like it or not, compliance is a vital part of running a successful practice. And so engaging managers with compliance is absolutely vital. So how do we do that? iComply does have a great news functionality. Any existing users out there will know that, and it updates practices automatically with regards to new guidance or legislation or anything major going on in dentistry. You can imagine how helpful that was for practice managers during the COVID period. But, the other thing to consider is that whilst compliance is a crucial part of practice management, it's not the only responsibility that a PM has in practice. Okay, there are many other aspects of running a practice. We know that. And given that, practice managers don't know what they don't know. How are you keeping them up to date? How are you keeping them up to date with changes to guidance and legislation? And how are you helping them to understand how they're going to implement that in real life? So a couple of ideas are that you could hold quarterly compliance workshops, lunch and learns quarterly, I think would be a really good idea. You could send monthly newsletters and updates. And another good thing, I think, to action would be maybe quarterly or 6 monthly surveys to assess confidence or understanding of your practice managers, to make sure that compliance is really embedded as part of your culture across the group. I think that's really important at the moment as well, the communication, because we're seeing a lot of recruitment issues in dentistry still, so a lot of new practice managers joining, so it's really important that you keep that engagement and communication going from day one, and that you don't let that lapse. Okay. The next thing, and again, I always go on about deep diving, but it's really important. It's important to spot check, deep dive, review, and feedback. Again, this is really crucial in helping you to identify risk and training needs. You need to be checking policies. You need to be checking that they're adopted correctly and that risk assessments and audits have been carried out correctly. And again, if a practice is required to carry out some remedial work on the back of an audit or a risk assessment, then ensure expectations and timeframes are clear. Offer that additional level of support. Make sure the PM has the knowledge and they're comfortable in carrying out that kind of activity. The more you spot check, the more you review, the more you feedback, the more likely you are to have a high level of compliance. Obviously, if you've got the group functionality, you can spot check all of your documents from 20 different practices sat in one place. It's super, super easy. But if you don't, then that's okay. Ask practice managers to email you specific policies every month so that you can review them and check that they've been completed or adopted correctly. And as I said before, site visits are crucial. Of course they should be, certainly for engagement, but these should be for observation really and training, rather than just wasting time checking documents. Let me just flip back, sorry. Training. So this is a really important one. Make sure that all of your team members have had the required compliance knowledge relevant to their specific job role. So compliance isn't the responsibility of one person, it is the responsibility of the whole team. So again, make sure that there is specific and regular in-house and online training for all of your team members. Again, good communication as a group will help you with that. I know lots of you out there will have the iLearn practice reporting tool. And if you don't, again, talk to us about it. But that's a really superb tool to help you manage training in CPD across all of your sites. And it really sits nicely against iComply as well. But investing in training will help you to support and drive engagement across the estate. There's no two ways about it. Career development. So you might identify people in your group who excel at compliance, who have a really strong interest or passion for it. Hands down, all the groups that Laura and I look after, we can identify straight away, 3 or 4 people in each group who really excel at the compliance. So as a compliance lead or an owner, then the onus is on you really to develop these people into compliance leads or champs to help support across the wider group. It will also increase their own knowledge and their own experience. So it's a complete win-win for you really as an organisation, because you're building a strong compliance team whilst empowering and promoting career growth of individuals as well. So definitely think about career development within compliance. Incentivize. So this is a really interesting one, but I work with a really wonderful group who has an amazing ops manager. And she builds practice compliance performance into her manager's annual bonus objectives and KPIs. And as a result, interestingly, compliance across the group is at a pretty consistently high level, one of our best groups, I think. So, I appreciate that might not be an option for everybody, but it certainly works. So if you have an incentive scheme, then I would definitely encourage you to build your compliance management into that. Another key thing here for me is area managers. So the group dashboard on iComply allows area managers to monitor and view the compliance of their own areas, which is absolutely super. It gives those area managers that confidence that their practices are working well as well. However, if you don't have that functionality, then at the very least, area managers should be kept up to date with issues or concerns at practice level. They don't want to hear that a practice is at risk when they are notified of a CQC inspection. You need to keep area managers involved. Make sure that area managers reserve a spot for compliance at area meetings and definitely offer to support that. Area managers is probably one of the toughest jobs in a group, but they have their feet on the ground and they really understand the operational challenges at practice level. So again, but involving your area managers, it's a win-win. You're certainly providing your practice managers with another layer of support. And that brings you along to one of the last couple of things, really. So celebrate, share, and replicate. This is a big thing. Compliance and certainly inspections can be super stressful for managers, super stressful for everybody. So it's really important to recognise and celebrate when a practice has passed an inspection, or if they're managing their compliance really well, maybe fund a team night out, send a bouquet of flowers to the practice manager, or visit the practice in person to say thank you. The success and hard work of that practice should be shared with your wider group, so that the practice gets the positive recognition that it deserves. And also, again, like we spoke about earlier, is a time to reflect on what went well, and identify how you can share that knowledge and replicate that success with other practices in your group. And make compliance sexy, right? So I know this is a really tough one, but if you action all of these tips and maybe do some simple things like monthly quizzes with your decon leads and head nurses with a small prize, incentivize your PMs, reward and recognize success and share best practice, you'll find that compliance becomes less stressful and much more manageable across the group, because your managers are encouraged and engaged. Okay. Okay, so I just want to talk to you a little bit about how our corporate team will support your business. So we have a specialised team at iComply dedicated to supporting groups and DCOs with compliance. And these are some of the benefits that we can provide if you were to join us and have the iComply group dashboard. So we provide monthly compliance clinics or quarterly compliance clinics where new users can drop in for an informal QA session with other members of their group. Really helpful for practice managers that are new to compliance or those that are struggling as well for whatever reason. We obviously provide full practice manager training for existing managers as part of the onboarding process, but also obviously to any new managers going forward as well. And we'll support you with the onboarding of new practice acquisitions and add them to your estate. We've got a fantastic health check audit tool that we can mobilise for you, so that for your new acquisitions, that enables you to identify risk from day one, really. We do offer bespoke one-to-one training sessions for compliance champs. So if you have key managers in your group with a real flair for compliance, we can carry out some additional training for them to enable them to become compliance champs as well, which means that your practices, have that additional layer of support in your group. Laura Corton, my lovely boss, and myself will hold your hand during the onboarding process to make it as seamless as possible for you. Really, we'll be your point of contact going forward if you join the group dashboard functionality, and we'll be your go-to people for guidance, feedback and support, really. So that will be with monthly meetings, quarterly business reviews, just so that we can report and brief you on new functionality and provide any support and guidance that you need, really. So that's the iComply group dashboard functionality. It is a super platform. I can't rave about it or recommend it enough. It's been a game changer for some of our groups. It does provide that layer of confidence, a layer of control. We are building on the functionality all the time and expanding it. We've got some really exciting things lined up in the very near future. Can't tell you too much, but we have. So, if you want to find out some more, then please don't hesitate to reach out. If you want to spend some time with myself or Laura or anybody else in the team, then just let us know and we can set that up for you quite easily.